Okay, last example, example number 6. We got 16y squared minus 6yx minus 27x squared. So I did a little bit of the work beforehand already, so same setup. Set up the x, multiply the first and last coefficient. Turns out to be negative 432, and drop the second coefficient down. Now, what are two numbers on the side that multiply together to give me back negative 432 and added together to give me back negative 6? Well, what if I were to rewrite negative 6 into the product of two smaller numbers? I mean, of two other numbers, to be more specific. What if I write it into the sum of negative 24 plus 18? Well, we know for sure negative 24 plus 18 is negative 6. Okay, now are these two numbers going to give me back negative 432 when I multiplied it? Well, let's see. Negative 24 times 18, 8 times 432, right? 2 keep 3. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 3 is 19. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. Well, let's see. I got 2. Bring it down. 9 plus 4 is 13. Write 3. Keep 1 right there. 1 plus 1 is 2. Plus 2 is 4. And negative times positive is going to be negative. So, hey, negative 432. So these two numbers go on the side. Now, of course, you know, these are larger numbers, so it's going to be trial and error for you guys, but it's just that I play around with it beforehand, and that's how I figure it out. You know, just for the sake of timekeeping. Okay, so play around with it on the calculator or by hand, you know, and eventually you figure it out, okay? So anyway, this can be rewritten as 16y squared plus negative 24. Now, the middle term is y times x. So when I put these two numbers in here, each of them is going to have to multiply yx. So this is negative 24yx, and then plus 18yx. And then keep the minus 27x squared. Continue factoring by grouping method, right there. Now for the first binomial, let's see, we can factor the y. That's for sure. What can we rewrite 16 into? Well, 16 can be rewrite into 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. What about the negative 24x? Well, let's see, negative 24x can be rewritten as negative 1 times 2 times 2, that's negative 4. Negative 4 times another 2, that's negative 8. But negative 8 times 3 is going to give me negative 24. Okay, so these are all the prime numbers. And then bring down the x. So let's figure out the greatest common factor of the first binomial. Well, we got a 2 in here, a 2 in there, a 2 in here, a 2 in here, a 2 in here, and a 2 in here. The last 2 is in here, but not in the second list. So hey, 2 multiplying itself 3 times is the greatest common factor of, along with the y is the greatest common factor of the first binomial. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So the greatest common factor is 8y of the first binomial. After we factor out the 8y, we're left with just 2 for the first term. For the second term, we're left with just negative 1 times x. So minus x. Minus 3x, my bad. Negative 1 times 3 times x. What about the second terms? Well, for the second term, let's see. Well, for the second term, for sure, we can factor the x. So we got plus, I'm leaving some space here, x. And then 18 can be rewritten as 2 times 3 times 3, and bring down the y. Okay, because the x already out here. Negative 27x squared. Well, that is the same as saying negative 1 times 3, which is negative 3 times 3, which is negative 9, and then times another 3, which is negative 7. And times x times x. Oops, I mean, just one of the x. Well, let's figure out the greatest common factor. 2 in here, but not in there. 3 in here, 3 in there. So that's 1. 3 in here, another 3 in there. So that's 2. Y's in here, but not in there. And there's nothing else to consider in the first list of prime number factors, so that's all we have. So another part of the greatest common factor of the second binomial is 3 times 3, which is 9. So the greatest common factor is 9x of the second binomial. After factoring out the 9x, we're left with just 2y. For the first term, the leftover for the second term will be negative 1 times 3 times x. So that's minus 3x. Oh, my bad. Okay, this is in y squared, so the leftover has to be 2y. Okay, that's a mistake. Okay, so earlier I forgot to write the second exponential power, so that's messed up everything. But yeah, 16y squared can be rewritten as 2 multiplied by 4 times y. After factoring 8y, we're left with just 2y for the first term here, and of course minus 3x for the second term. But hey, guess what? Common binomial, factor it out. We're left with just 8y plus 9x. But hey, this is the factor form of this expression, okay? So sorry about the mistake.